Hey, what's good, my fellow masters? So, one of the most anticipated servants of the year for me personally is Tiamat, who is set to make her debut very soon. It has been quite a while since this character first made her appearance in the game, and I was hoping she would eventually be made into a playable servant, and a couple years ago on JP, Lasengel did just that. Now it's finally NA's turn to get her. So, if you find yourself a bit unfamiliar with what this playable version of Tiamat can do, then I hope this overview of her abilities, with some of the things I like about her, can help you decide if you would like to roll for her or not. Officially, this limited SSR unit is called Larva Tiamat. I'm supposed to reflect the unique circumstances of her spirit origin as an alter ego. Tiamat's base attack at level 90 is 11,444, which puts her second to last among her SSR peers in the alter ego class currently in the game, just ahead of Rasputin. Her base level 90 HP is 14,107, tied for second highest with Rasputin among the 5-star alter egos, behind Sessione and Chiara. So all in all, Tiamat is fairly tanky with regards to her HP pool. Her base star absorption is 104, a little higher than the normal 100 for alter egos, but her star generation is slightly lower than the 10% class standard at 9.8% to somewhat balance out, I guess. Tiamat's NP generation rate is a serviceable 0.44% when attacking and 4% when taking a hit. The alter ego standard base death rate is 50%, but Tiamat's is significantly lower at just 30%, which I think is supposed to point towards her lore as a goddess of creation. She joins the relatively rare Star Attribute Club and has an alignment of chaotic evil. For traits, Tiamat has got quite a lot of them. She's a servant with animal characteristics, a demonic beast servant, divine spirit, naturally with divinity. She has a dragon trait, is not weak to Enema Elish, a goddess servant, immune to Bigify, a non-Hamididae servant. She's an obstacle maker. When was that trait added? Servant, obviously. Super large, and when in her first or second stage, Tiamat is a levitating servant. The command cards of our larval form Mother of Creation consists of one quick card with 4 hits, 2 arts cards at 4 hits each, and 2 buster cards, each with 3 hits, and her extra attack is a healthy 5 hits. All in all, a pretty balanced deck to complement her buster NP with ample hit counts per card type. But let's dive into what Tiamat can really do courtesy of her active skills. Skill 1 is an NP battery of up to 50% when maxed out, something I love to see on a servant. It also inflicts a couple of debuffs on all enemies with a 100% reduction to their critical chance, so effectively no crits for them, and blocks their ability to recover their HP, both of these effects lasting for 1 turn each. And this skill, when maxed, has a cooldown of 6 turns, not too lengthy and just adequate to be used again by turn 3 with the proper support. Tiamama's second skill boosts her attack and buster cards for 3 turns each, both scaling with skill level from 20% to 30%, providing her with some nice multi-turn damage buffs. For a bit more offense, all enemies will be cursed for 3 turns, taking up to 2,000 damage per turn, plus there is a decent chance to stun them all for a turn. And like the first skill, this is also on a 6-turn cooldown. Tiamat's skill 3 covers some utility for the party, with a modest HP recovery of up to 1,500 for the front line, a small but useful 10% NP charge for the party, and a 1-turn NP damage increase of up to 20% for everyone. The key thing to note about her skill 3, it's on a very short cooldown, just 2 turns when maxed out. So at the very least, you can expect to use this skill a couple of times in a farming node, even without Koyanskaya's cooldown reduction. However, with Koyanskaya, it gets a lot more interesting. Shifting our focus to Tiamat's passives, she's got a lot going on with 5 of them. The first is a 10% increase to her crit damage, which will combine nicely with a 4% crit damage increase from her second passive. Tiamat also gets a 4% increase to both her instant kill resistance and her mental debuff resistance. Next up is a flat 500 damage reduction she permanently has in effect, giving her that much more durability. On the other hand, Tiamat being a goddess gives her that flat damage increase common to those with divinity, though hers in particular is a very high rank at a damage boost of 300. And tied to it is a significant 30% general debuff resistance. Then lastly, Tiamat has an Avenger-esque passive NP charge per turn at 5%, obviously adding to her already serviceable base NP generation, not to mention her NP batteries. As for this goddess's Append skills, the typically more unique third one is an anti-beast attack buff of up to 30%. Now, proper beast class enemies are an occasional big bad we masters have to contend with, but they are not exactly commonly found in farming nodes. Though I suppose with the addition of Draco and another playable beast class servant coming next year, the chances of facing a beast in an event do increase. Just keep in mind that beasts do tend to have variable class advantages and disadvantages that change from one to the next. That said, I would suggest prioritizing Tiamat's second Append once there are enough of her servant coins. It will be needed to facilitate the most optimum 3-turn buster farming in terms of CE flexibility and damage output. And then in the future, when the 4th and 5th Append skills are added to the game, the 5th with its skill cooldown reduction is one that can help further leverage Tiamat's 3rd skill and allow for her 2nd skill to conceivably be used as early as Wave 2 with Double Coin Skaya's assistance. In addition, the 5th Append will allow for a couple of ways Tiamat's skill 3 can be triggered successively for either a much stronger Wave 2 NP or a max damage Wave 3 NP. The noble Phantasm of this beast turn alter ego is an area of effect buster type with 6 hits. It has a couple of effects tied to its damage. Prior to firing the NP off, any debuffs Tiamat has will be removed, and on the enemy's end, assuming they survive, will have their skill sealed for a turn. The overcharge effect is a type I'm very fond of, which is a 3-turn buster steroid, scaling with OC stage and activates first. Now, as far as general isolated NP damage goes, Larva Tiamat will take top spot among all the AoE alter egos in the game, and even among the known future ones as well. So while she does not have any special damage modifiers, aside from the anti-beast one from her 3rd Append, Tiamat's overall NP output is more than up to the task without any worry about a particular attribute, trait, or alignment matchups. Just looking at her own buffs, by the 3rd wave, when Tiamat fires off her NP, the increase to her buster effectiveness will have combined to 120%. With double Koyan's buffs and allowing for Tiamat's 2nd skill activation again, plus Oberon, that becomes a combined 300% to buster effectiveness for her MP on Wave 3. Ultimately, Tiamat happens to check off a lot of boxes I tend to really favor in a servant, especially a buster unit. 50% NP battery? Check. Ability to buff all 3 core damage modifiers of attack, primary card type, in her case buster, and MP strength? Check. Provide some party utility that can be useful in a multi-core setup? Check. Have cooldown lengths that can synergize well with Double Coin Skaya? Definitely has that, with a bit of a bonus for one particular skill. Has either a widely applicable niche, or an NP overcharge steroid that can stack over multiple turns? Affirmative on the latter part. And well, you can see where I'm going with this. All of that adds up to an AoE buster unit that is not just capable of being a very potent 3-turn buster looper, but with a max level 2nd Append skill, plus Oberon, Tiamat is one of the few buster units currently in the game that is able to loop with a Black Rail CE equipped. Now, obviously being able to 3-turn loop with a Black Rail means greater MP damage, especially with Oberon's 3rd skill buff factored in. But just as important, it also means Tiamat does not need a CE with a starting NP charge to loop, assuming you have all the necessary things in place. Effectively, she has flexibility with what CE she can equip, and that can make event farming much easier to tackle, what with the ever-changing event CEs you need for points or currency bonuses and the like. Of course, this also means it's okay if you don't have a Black Rail CE, or even Oberon. You can still make Tiamat loop with any CE with a 50% starting charge, a coin sky of your own plus another from your friends list, and one more support with a targetable 50% NP charge from your roster like Castoria, or even Waver. I also like that Tiamat has some abilities that could be handy outside of just farming, like her debuffs to hinder enemies in some higher difficulty content, and the possibility of even a bit of stalling with her 60% stun chance. Then you have her 3rd skill's super low cooldown and its party-wide HP recovery that can do a decent job of offsetting some attrition in more drawn-out fights due to being able to trigger so frequently. And she has a reliable way to remove any annoying debuffs from herself, really nice to have in battles with debuff-heavy gimmicks. Though on the topic of more drawn-out battles, there is one key thing really missing from her kit. which is a way to mitigate an incoming enemy NP, whether by evasion, invincibility, or guts. So in a more drawn out battle, you may have to either rely on the stalling effects from Koyanskaya's MP, Oberon's MP, or have someone like Merlin or even Castoria in the lineup to provide that hard defense. And since Tiamat does have a fair amount of flexibility with CEs, one with a suitable survivability effect could also work. But other than that one downside, I think Tiamat is a really good choice if you're looking to fill the SSR AoE alter ego slot on your servant roster. Though ideally you would already have a Koyanskaya of Light and Oberon to welcome her. Are there more compelling servants out there? Sure, an argument could be made for other servants coming up down the road. Furthermore, I would say if you already have an SSR AoE alter ego like Ashia Domon or Gregory Rasputin, who I think are both quite good in their own right, then perhaps Tiamat can wait in favor of another servant that you deem a high priority. Speaking about Domon and Rasputin, both of these husbandos will be back on Raid Up around late August or September. So if you are in need of an AoE alter ego but don't have Koyanskaya of Light, and instead have either Scotty or Castoria, then I think considering one of these two might make more sense. That said, whatever your roster circumstances, if Tiamama is just someone you really want, and I can completely relate to this, but you just need to prioritize another servant down the road, like, I don't know, maybe Draco or Summer Castoria comes to mind. The good news is there are a number of future banners for Larva Tiamat. She will be back for the New Year's 2026 campaign in January, then possibly around June 2026 for a potential rerun of the Lilim Harlot event, depending how things play out for NA since that was based on a survey on JP. Then we can also expect Tiamat on a banner in February 2027 for the Alter Ego weekly summoning campaign. Personally, I would love to try for MP5 of Tiamama. I have been hoping and waiting for this character to become playable for so long. Plus, there is just something about her MP animation that I find so epic, and it brings me back to watching the Babylonia anime that got me into playing FGO. Unfortunately for me, my SQ and ticket budget is pretty tight, so I'll probably have to wait a bit longer. I don't know. We'll see how things go. For those that will be rolling for her, I wish you all the EX luck with your rolls. Leave a comment about why you decided to roll for Tiamat. Is it for a similar reason I talked about? At any rate, I hope this was helpful in some way. Please don't forget to hit that like button to let me know if it was or if you simply enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next one, cheers!